Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good day to our panels. Let me introduce ourselves first. My name is Muhammad Zairul Shazrin bin Hamidun as the first presenter, along with my partner, or the second presenter, Muhammad Haizal bin Rosli, will be presenting about our research study, a study on energy-saving behavioral intention among in-campus students at UiTM Kampus Seremban, supervised by Madam Nurliana binti Muhammad Shazali. So we proceed to the research background. So, energy can be defined as the quantitative attribute that should be transmitted to a body or physical system or technical process in order to perform work on it or to heat it. So it is important for the impact on the infrastructure and socio-economic activities as well as the economic growth and development. So energy efficiency in all aspects of life may contribute significantly to a critical need for a transformative shift towards a more sustainable future and society. So in this context, energy efficiency could improve the resource efficiency and critical component for achieving several objectives, which include energy security, reducing climate change, and overcoming environmental degradation. So the purpose of this study is to discover the students' energy behavioral preferences as well as the factors influence energy saving behavioral intention at UiTM Campus Seremban. Next is the problem statement. So, nowadays, the concern about the use of energy by people has arisen. According to the International Energy Agency in 2015, instead of its contribution, energy is also the leading cause of climate change, which generates over 60% of the total world greenhouse gas emissions if there is poor and excessive in consuming the energy. So global energy consumption is growing as the result of an increase in population and urbanization process. So there are other issues like global warming, ozone depletion, and many others as a result of excessive energy consumption. So based on these issues, it can be inferred that the majority of the consumers are not fully equipped or exposed with energy-saving knowledge and awareness.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad Haizal bin Rosli. So moving on to the research question and research objective. So we got 3 research questions which will reflect research objective. The first research question is we want to know the level of the DV among students at UiTM Campus Seremban. This focus on the dependent variable SODI. So our research objective is to investigate the level of the DV among the students at the campus. Next, the second one is we questioning on whether there is a relationship between the IV, which are attitude, self-efficacy and social norms, with the DV, the energy saving behavioral intention. So our research objective on this question is to know the influence of each IVs on the DV. Then the last research question is we want to know which IVs has strongest influence on the DV. So the research objective focus on analysis of statistical data of each IVs with the DV.
Next, I will explaining about the literature review. As I said just now, there are factors influence the energy-saving behavioral intention among students at UiTM Campus Seremban. So the first factor is the attitude. So according to Abraham and Stack in their past studies, they have found that individuals with a good attitude and mentality are more likely to have pro-environmental behaviors and intentions. There are also many previous studies that show a strong relationship between attitude and energy efficiency in the context of energy consumption and conservation. So the importance of efficient use of energy towards environment depends on the attitude or the way of thinking of people on how they want to save energy. So in this context, the positive views of some people regarding the environmental issues such as global warming, climate change, and ozone depletion are related to the attitude that will link to behavioral intention in that domain. This is because they know that if the energy is not used properly, it may contribute to those environmental issues as well as lead to energy depletion. For the next factor is self-efficacy. So, self-efficacy is known as a person's belief in their carry out the required behaviors to achieve specified performance standards. It can be said that every aspect of human actions and activities are influenced by self-efficacy. So, in the context of energy efficiency consumption, self-efficacy is an individual's capability to do certain actions and has influence on perceived behavioral control. Individuals with stronger self-efficacy are more likely to be involved in pro-environmental behaviors. According to the previous studies, in the case of university students, there are many research that have found that perceived self-efficacy has important influences towards energy efficiency. Self-efficacy of individuals is becoming an energy saver for the world today. This is where people can influence their own life situations and make people become more responsible towards the use of energy. And the last factor is social norms. Social norms is about how influential the views and opinions of people towards an individual's life and actions in performing certain behaviors. So social norms have an influence on energy efficiency behaviors because people are involved in energy efficiency behaviors for a variety of reasons, which includes the personal interests and social pressures. So, according to Perry in her article in 2021, people may choose to engage in pro-environmental behaviors based on their judgments of the social acceptability of those acts. So, in this regard, social norms have a considerable influence on behavioral intention, which leads to actions. It can be said that individuals are more willing to engage in pro-environmental actions when they have sense that those practices are acceptable by the wider public.
Now we proceed to conceptual framework. The conceptual framework is used to show the relationship between DV and IVs that related to research study. So in this study, the IVs were attitude, self-efficacy and social norms that will be related to the DV, which is energy-saving behavioral intention. Next, we proceed to hypothesis development. So for each IV, we develop alternative hypotheses to test the relationship with the DV. The first one is whether there is relationship between attitude and DV. And then the second one is whether there is relationship between self-efficacy and the DV. And the last one is whether there is relationship between social norm and the DV. Alright, the next slide is about research methodology, which is the contents of chapter 3. Firstly, the research design used was quantitative method, which involved collecting, analysis and measuring numerical data. And secondly, the unit analysis involved the students who study in UiTM Kampus Seremban. that live in College Bendahara Skudai and College Mayang Selida. In addition, there is around 2,000 students population, and the sample size we use is 322. This is based on Morgan and Craigie table of sample size. Apart from that, this research uses non-probability sampling, as this method is suitable for the study which focus on targeted respondent. Then for data measurement, we use Likert scale, which start from 1, which is the strongly disagree, and end with the 5, strongly agree. Furthermore, in this study, we use Google Forms that consist bilingual questionnaire, which is in English and Malay. The questionnaire consists of those 5 sections, and then being spread through social media and email. Lastly, to analyze the data collected, we use Pearson correlation and multiple regression to run the study on testing the relation between the IV and the DV. Moving on to chapter 4, we proceed with the demographic result. As you can see, most of the respondents are female, with the number of 175. Then majority of them are 22 years old and above. Furthermore, most of the respondents were taking bachelor's degree with a number of 244. In addition, majority of respondents were live in Mayang Selida College with 177 of them. Lastly, majority of the respondents came from Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy with a number of 174 of them. Next, moving on to the main findings, the first research objective is to examine the DV among students at UiTM Kampus Seremban. The result shows a good response as the mean is recorded at 4.65. According to several scholars, the score which above 2.5 is assumed as high moderate. Then the research objective of the second one is to examine the influence of the 3 IVs with the DV. The result shows that all IVs have relationship with DV. All IVs have the sigma root value of 0.00 and the Pearson correlation values are also in acceptable range. This is based on Guilford rules of thumb. For the last research objective, it is to examine the strongest factor that influence the DV. For this objective, multiple regression analysis was used to determine more significant element. The result shows that perceived behavioral control value of attitude was recorded as the highest value with 0.613. So attitude is the most strongest factor that influence the DV.
Next is about limitations of study and future research suggestions. So the first limitation is limited sample size. The research was primarily focused on one specific university, which is only at the UiTM Seremban and its students. So in general, due to limited and small sample size, it was difficult for the researchers to distribute the questionnaires to the students to collect more data. So for the future research studies, it must be broaden the scope of study and become more general in order to be applicable to other universities so that there will be more respondents that can be involved in the study. The second limitation is the cross-sectional study. A cross-sectional study is being emphasized in which it is only applicable in the short-term purpose. So the result of the findings might only be accurate for a particular short time period only. In addition, a cross-sectional study that involves students distributing questionnaires all at one time may not be able to analyze the causal relationships. So in order to produce the result findings that can be analyzed and easier for the researchers to understand, for future research studies must be applied the longitudinal study.
For the conclusion, based on the findings, all IVs have significant relationship with the DV. And then attitude was found as the strongest relation among the IV. Lastly, this kind of study is needed since the IV which represent human nature can change over time in the future. That's all from us. Thank you very much.